So we're here with Kevin and Nathan Miskey, and it's a father-son team on this job. Kevin, what's your role here? You were just telling us, basically, you're the one who leads them into the bush?
That's right. I get a block of timber, and like I say, out at the highway where it started, I get my map, and then I have the GPS, and I first have to lay out the road system. And back in here from the highway is 10 kilometers. So
it's a lot of road.
It's a lot of road, a lot of hiking. So I get that all lined up because we're running out of here too, not tandem trucks, but tractor trailers. That's 48-foot trailers.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have decent road. So you can't just go over one hill and down the other. You got to make sure that you put a good road in.
Well, coming in here was better than our cottage road used to be, so that says something.
I always say my roads are better than the King's Highway. And then I come in there, I lay the road system out and the landings where they're going to bring the timber in.
And this is a landing where we are.
Landing here, yeah.
Yep.
And turnarounds for the trucks to turn around and turnoffs. I get that all laid out, and I bring in the cut skid crew, and they cut the road system out first.
Mm-hmm.
So wide, and then I bring in the construction crew, backhoe, dozer, and they build it. And if it's in summertime, I gravel it. I bring the rock trucks in and bulldozer and stuff, gravel the road. Wintertime, we just freeze it. This little section here is on winter road. It's froze.
Mm-hmm.
Once that's all done, then my son Nathan, he takes over, and he comes in there and starts laying out the skid trails and all for the crews.
So Nathan, tell us about your part of it.
Basically, I'm given a big block, about, I don't know, what's this, 2,000 acres. My job is basically to divide it up into small sections. One, to increase productivity, and the other to lessen the skid trail coverage. So, sometimes we'll have this system going and 13 other skidders. So, I'm busy looking after the trucks, organizing the trucks, looking after the crews. So, I'm pretty busy.
So it's a family business.
Yeah, and like I say, on our operation here, when the lads come into work, your cut and skid crew, Nathan has trails, ribbon, for them. They know where they're going. They're not wandering around through the bush with a piece of machinery, looking for stuff. They know where they're going. They go to the back of the cut where the cut boundary is and work their way out, so there's nobody lost.
Another thing we introduced is the GPS systems in them. For the mechanical, Dave Quayle is given a GPS, and all his skid trails are put on the GPS and the red lines. So he knows where he's going all the time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
This is Dave Quayle beside me, and Dave is the operator of this scary-looking piece of equipment, Dave. And you were telling me everybody calls it a feller buncher, but they're not called that anymore.
No, actually they are now a harvester. Being with the processing head placed on it, it actually becomes a harvester.
And you were saying that this equipment has changed over time, and it's a lot more versatile than it used to be.
Yeah, it sure is. When we first began, we began with a feller buncher with just a hot saw mounted on the end of the boom, and at that time we were just felling the trees and delimbing them by hand manually. Men with chainsaws would follow behind and cut the tops off the trees, and as that became a problem, we looked for solutions to the problem, and eventually this is where we have evolved to. We've came to the processing head installed to become a harvester.
Yeah, and we watched it work, and it's pretty amazing the way it grabs it and skins everything off and tops it at the end. It does a fairly complete job in a fairly short period of time.
Yeah, it sure does. You'll see a higher rate of production with a feller buncher, but your costs are still high because you're producing the same amount of wood, but it's taking upwards of 5 guys versus 2 guys.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see a little higher production, but your costs are higher. With this system, It cleans the trees all up. We're getting a better, cleaner stem at the end. With the hot saw, it placed everything in a pile, and a guy would have to kind of search through the pile and hope he cut them all off. But with what we're doing here now, it's single stem processing, and we're getting a cleaner product. The mills are happier.
And this thing going through the bush, it's pretty clean going through the bush. It doesn't do much damage. I mean, when you swing the cab around, it doesn't touch anything. It stays over the tracks.
Yeah, for sure. That's why we strive to stay with a zero tail swing machine. The Tiger Cat has worked out well for us that way, being a big enough carrier yet still with a zero tail swing, so that you're not damaging any residual trees.
And also, when you're cleaning up, you can go right down to almost the ground on when you're cutting off the trees.
Yeah, we can pretty well go right down the bottom. What you'll find, though, is some spots, the snow, you'll end up a little higher stump this time of year. But normally, yeah, you can go right down. We are liking the intermittent saw versus a hot saw. You can place your head there, and if there is a stone, will you just lift your head above rather than wrecking your teeth? That would be on the hot saw. So, yes, we're finding you can get a lower cut on your stem.
And this thing goes anywhere.
Yeah, it sure does. Snow doesn't really seem to affect it. Hills, it can climb pretty well all the hills that you'll find. And yeah, there isn't too many places that it won't go. The one thing that we're really finding with the mechanical harvesting side versus having men on the ground is that we're able to leave more wildlife trees in place. We don't have to damage the regen chasing after one stub or shiko with having men working on the ground. With everybody in a cab, there really isn't the danger there. So we're finding it a lot safer for men too.
Good.
The hot saws, they were fully extended and they spun all the time. So as you're going through the bush looking for your selective harvest, you're cutting off your regen. Where now with an intermittent saw, we're actually saving that smaller regen. The stuff that's 3-4 feet high, you can drive over it and it'll stand back up. Where the hot saw, once it's cut, it's cut. So we're really finding that to be an improvement in a selective hardwood cut. These are your grab arms and delimber arms. The edges are sharpened on them. And that is what actually shears your limb off, cuts your limb off.
When it's sliding it back through.
Yep, as the rolls are forcing the tree through there. And then you have that top knife, it floats on a big spring behind it. It works on the tree as your tree goes through, and it takes all the limbs off the top.
Well, thanks, Dave.
No problem.
Mike Miskey?
Mike Miskey, yeah.
And another son. Mike, what's this called behind us?
It's a forwarder, 1065 Tiger Cat forwarder.
And it's a brand new piece of equipment, you were saying.
Yep, brand new, yeah.
You started learning on when?
Last June.
And nobody else is doing this around here?
Nope.
What's the advantage to this?
The advantage is, well, it's no physical labor work, right? Like in the past where I've done the cable skidding, I've done the felling by hand, there's no danger involved. You don't have to worry about shikos falling on the top of you, hitting you on the head, stuff like that. You're not physically wore out at the end of the day. And plus, it's just a longer work season, right?
Now, I heard the term long logging. What is that?
Long logging. Well, it's just like we don't cut the length. We don't cut the product. We just he just goes up far as the tree, like if we're crooks or anything like that, and he just cuts her off the length right there. Yep. And I just throw it on, and they go to the mill, and they cut the logs out of it at the mill.
And there's an advantage to that?
Well, you can get it's quicker, right?
Yeah.
Like it's quicker, it's more productive. The mills like it that way too. They find that they can get more product actually out of it than some of them cutting to length.
Well, good luck with your equipment. It's pretty formidable looking.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Okay, we're here with Bob Robinson. This is Bob's license area, and it's a fair chunk of real estate here. And Kevin Miskey, as you heard in other parts of this, have laid out the roads in this block, and we're going to set this up for a 5-year cut in a 5-year plan. And anyway, Bob is the main licensee here. And Bob also works a lot for Murray Brothers plus Freeman's. So he's one of the largest jobbers in our SFL, the Sustainable Forestry License.
Well, we've had some difficulties with the mechanical in the first stages of the experiment because lack of knowledge. Operators had to learn, how to operate these large pieces of equipment, and the cost was extremely high. But anyways, we're very hopeful, and we're just wanting to continue because we see it's the way of the future. Because the workforce is declining age-wise. Even you're not getting new entries like we used to with young guys. So what we have to do here is to develop a system that will work and for the long haul. That do a good job to the bush and be economical. So we're at that. We're still really what you call experimenting, because experimental stages, because it's been new, and we know it can physically do it, and we're just trying to make the numbers work. And as the market maybe increases, we're hoping that there's going to be that extra in for the contractor that owns these pieces of equipment to be able to have it better there. So we're going to persevere. We've been at it, like I say, for a while, and we're going to continue to make it work.